Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our reaction and review for Mayfair Witches, Season 2, Episode 8. This is the finale. We have made it to the end of Rowan's journey, at least for now, and good for you, JoJo and Daphne. You do not have to be stuck in a thrall forever, even though we apparently did not want to pay the actresses to actually come back for this day, and we just want to have it happen off screen.
I mean, that was the kind of the disappointing thing of it all. It was nice to hear their voices, that they were excited, that they were out and everything was great, but it would have been really nice to see JoJo and Daphne, especially JoJo for me. I really like that character, to just see her again and see her smiling and happy to get out and just that joyous reunion. It feels like we've been on this long journey to get here where Rowan was going to get Lasher's blood so that she was able to get them out, and then that whole reunion just was off screen.
Yeah, they blew the budget going to Ireland to film for a while, having the big wedding, all of that sort of stuff. Now, there's, I think, a lot of big stuff that happened in this episode. I mean, obviously, we're losing a big part of the show.
Huge.
Lasher is seemingly gone. I mean, this is a world of witchcraft. It's hard to know whether or not everybody's ever going to be gone for sure, but it seems like he's gone. Julian has more power than he has before. Like, there's a lot going on here from top to bottom.
Absolutely.
Before we go forward, though, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we still have so much other great TV coverage coming. Like the Talamasca is seemingly going to arrive at some point this year. An Interview with the Vampire, Season 3, the Lestat Rockstar Tour.
Can't wait.
I'm so excited for that. It's somewhere pretty far down the road, but we're really excited. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so you guys do not miss any of that.
We're also covering Yellow Jackets right now here at the channel. So if you're watching that, we are also watching that. And if you want to help support us further, be sure to hit our Patreon. We have a link for you below. It's a great way to support us here at the channel so we can continue to bring you more videos. We're covering over there right now exclusively The Pit, which is airing on Max, and it is the only place that you can get those weekly videos. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. And now we pour out the chalice for Lasher, who is gone, who has gone through a particularly brutal series of events in this episode.
Yeah, this was tough. Well, I mean, watching this for Lasher obviously been a very important part of the show for the past 2 seasons. Who out there, leave it in the comments, thinks that he is gone, that he is actually gone? I do.
I'm tentatively raising my hand, and it's just because I know that this show is crazy.
For sure.
They always can find a way to undo everything, but at the same time, I also do kind of feel like there are certain deaths that do have to stick, because if you do kind of constantly just bring everybody back, then the death doesn't end up mattering anymore.
Here's the thing. I know that Julian Cortland was talking to Rowan when we saw Lasher get that axe, and he was basically like, if you drink from this chalice, yes, you and I, we will be connected forever in that way. Our powers will feed off each other, but we can bring people back from the dead. And I was like, oh, okay, here we go. So they're just not gonna let any deaths matter. But it did feel like this death actually happened and it actually matters. I mean, she took all this blood with her. He can't be there anymore. I feel like this has to matter. He's such an important character to the show, to Rowan, and it's time for her to move into the next step of whatever's going to happen. It can't be every season is Rowan and Lasher every single season. We had that for 2 seasons. It's time to start brand new, where we got something coming up with Rowan versus Julian.
Yeah, we need a refresher here on certain stories, because I found the Rowan and Lasher stuff to at times be exhausting, and it just feels like there is a chance to move forward here. I think Rowan should also be wise enough to remember, now that she's had a couple of seasons under her belt, I'm hoping that she makes slightly less annoying decisions moving forward.
We'll see.
She has to know that there are consequences to every act, especially when you are playing with the idea of bringing people back from the dead. Because it's like, even if you found some magical way to bring back Lasher, who's to say he's going to be the same Lasher we remember? We've watched enough supernatural shows to see like zombie versions of characters. They often aren't the same, and it just feels like there are too many problems that go with that. Just use the blood and do what you said you were going to do and try to be good and try to help people. Come on.
We all remember Topher from What We Do in the Shadows when he came back from the dead. It was not a great situation. So
No.
Let's just leave that one alone so that we can pour one out for Lasher.
Yes.
It's time for him to go. His story really is complete at this point. Everything, his connections with the Mayfair Witches, his connection with Rowan specifically, with Emileth, and all of his 8 children, all of his children.
Yeah.
This story feels like it's done now, and they can bring in Emileth and these children and sort of go from there. Because there's still a lot of story there.
There is a lot of story there. I'll just be honest here from a personal perspective. It's that I want Mayfair Witches to just be the show that's playing around and having a great time with the witchy stuff, where you've got weird spells and new interesting adversaries and all this stuff happening in New Orleans. Like, I don't find myself caring as much about the Talto side of things. And I think that's why I had a harder time with the end of this season, because there was just a lot of this stuff. And I'm not saying I want something terrible to happen to Emileth or these kids. I just don't know how invested I am in them, but I also feel like I have to get on board the ride because I don't think that stuff's going anywhere anytime soon.
Okay, let's talk about the Hansel and Gretel of this whole thing, where it's like, oh, she has all these children, then they're gonna fatten them up and give them cream and strawberries and get them all nice and big so that all the witches can eat them. I was just like, okay, guys, there is so much more that you can do with the story. We haven't read the books, so this might be part of the books and we don't know, but this feels very familiar to what went on with Hansel and Gretel, where the witch lured them to the candy house, put them in the tried to put them in the oven, the witch goes in the oven, all that sort of stuff, that she's going to eat the kids and get them all fattened up on candy. The same thing is happening here, and as I was watching it play out, I was like, okay, well, it's not going to be, I guess, a witch's story unless you're eating a baby somewhere along the way here. But it just didn't work the way that I think I hoped it would, because it was too close to that fairy tale.
Yeah, and I, like we said, because we haven't read the books, I don't know how much Anne Rice leaned into this. It might be that she's trying to do some sort of wink and nod to the fairy tale. It's all kind of hard to say, but it was a little bit distracting to me, because it's like I want to just be thinking about these witches and I want to be thinking about these Taltos and not so much like what's going on elsewhere. The only things that I want to be thinking about in terms of stuff that's going on elsewhere is like what's going on with the Talamasca, or like how are the rock rehearsals for Lestat going. It's like that's the stuff I'm fine to think about.
Well, it was also really weird about the kids eating this cream and, you know, the strawberries and like kind of fattening them up sort of thing, when all they were taking from them was their blood. I was kind of like, I don't really understand what's happening at this point. You're not actually eating them. You're going to be taking their blood. So like, what exactly is the purpose of this? You want it to be sweet and sugary? Like, I don't get it.
If you really want to fatten them up, okay, I'm saying it. Wouldn't you just be like, hey there, laddies, you want to get some double cheeseburgers? Or like something like that.
Accent?
I don't know. It was like, I had a really good idea in my head. It's like, okay, Matt,
it was great.
It was not great. It was just like, you can do this. Scottish accent.
You committed. You did it.
Okay, listen, sometimes you just got to commit to the bit. You got to run. But it's just like, there are some parts of this way of life that are confusing to me, where it's like, you guys are technically in the present day. You don't act like you're in the present day. Maybe you're just trying to rely on old traditions. I don't know that. I know that most of that's irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, I was really excited for them to end up out here in Scotland. But a lot of it didn't really work out the way that I had hoped. I mean, there were this ceremony that they had brought Lasher to. I mean, I think we all felt like something like this was going to be happening. We all know that Lasher's blood is very powerful. And it makes other people powerful. So I was like, okay, they're leading him out there to his death. Obviously, this is what's going to be happening to him. I found it very difficult to get invested in the Ians and the Hamish and all his kids and other cousins and the brothers and this. I didn't care about them as much as I had hoped to. I wanted to see everybody get back together, where Sip was working with Rowan, working with Moira, and that did all come back together. And that was the part I was waiting for, and it paid.
I think to me, what could have been better is if this season had been maybe a tiny bit longer. We had more time with Rowan kind of outside the magical sphere of things, especially in the first half. We had more time with everybody in Scotland so that we did get invested
Yeah.
more
Yes.
in some of these people. But then, of course, we had more time with who to me are the holy trinity of this show at this point, which is Rowan, Sip, and Moira. Like, those are the three best characters. They're the most fun to watch, and I want to see all of them interact with each other.
Watching how Moira got out of being with her captor right by the end of it, where she was just like, you want to be tied up or do you just want to go in the closet? Okay, let's just go into the closet. It'll be fine. That's like, she's such a great addition to the show, and I really hope that we will see her again.
Yeah, and I'm pretty hopeful that we will. It feels like this next season, based on where they ended things, we're going to see something that's a little bit more concentrated. We're going to be more in New Orleans, and we may actually be seeing Rowan try to use her powers or her abilities more in like an actual everyday capacity as a doctor. Like, that's something that at this point I'm pretty curious to see unfold, because Lark was really our only entry point into like average human life throughout this season.
Yeah, and now he's drunk the tea, so he's gone. And I was kind of like, did he really need to drink the tea? I mean, yeah, maybe along the line somebody might come after him because of what he knows, but they're gonna come after him anyways, whether he knows it or not. He could be like, I don't know what you're talking about, and they're not gonna believe him anyways. There really wasn't any reason for him to drink that tea except to get him gone. And I think they could have had him be like, listen, I love you, but I am not equipped to deal with this world. This is not for me. You are not for me. I gotta go my own way. Goodbye. That would have been fine too.
Yeah, I would have really loved, actually, if he had said something kind of like that and was just like, I need to go away. I need to take some time to sort of figure all these things out. And maybe he does come back a little bit later on. And
or
it's
he
like,
doesn't, and it's okay.
I don't think Lark would ever turn on her. I think he clearly loves her and cares about her, and he wants the best for her. And it's like, that's why I really liked that relationship. Now, with what little I know about the books and the material there, I know there's potential for Rowan to have other relationships and all that, and that's fine. I really did like this relationship, and I think they matched up pretty well, because Lark is this really smart, interesting, empathetic guy. He didn't feel like the prototypical love interest on a show like this.
Harry Hamlin's going to have such a fun time next season playing Julian. I mean, I think that we'll see Cortland again. I think Cortland will get out. Julian will be put back in. There'll be something along those lines. But I am really excited to see him playing Julian. Like, he was so fun in this finale, being such a bad guy. And I mean, Cortland is not a good person at all. I've made that very clear how I feel about Cortland throughout these videos.
Yes.
But Julian is such a compelling bad guy, and seeing Harry Hamlin play him, it's been fun.
It has been really fun. I just like how basic, and I don't mean basic in a bad way here, but just how basic the setup for season 3 could be now, where it's just like, here you have the quote-unquote good witch and Rowan. Here you have the quote-unquote bad witch and Julian.
And they are tied together by Lasher's blood now.
Yeah, it just feels like this is a really fundamental, interesting showdown that you have, where both of them may try to be building up their sides, figuring out what they can do to stop the other people. We could have some like real, legitimate, magical showdowns, which just, to me, feels like that's going to be really, really fun. And I mean, one of the biggest allies potentially that Rowan has here, like, this is the best time to get into the Sip of it all, because Sip, his ties to the Talamasca, his promotion, everything like that run pretty deep at this point. It feels like he is the #1 recruiter of any and all supernatural related people who could help her moving forward.
And he's the head of the New Orleans division. She's back there now. I mean, it all ties in really nicely. Now, let's talk about the Talamasca show a little bit in general here, because Mayfair Witches, Interview with a Vampire, they're in the same universe, but these are two completely different shows. They are not the same in any which way. Witches are always kind of campy in that way. It's just kind of the way that it is.
Yes.
Even with like American Horror Story Coven or The Craft, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's really hard to do witches in a very serious way, and that's fine. But vampires, you did them so seriously, so deeply emotional. That's how vampires roll, and that's how Interview with a Vampire rolled.
Yeah.
These two shows, while in the same universe, feel like two completely different shows. So when we get into the Talamasca, even the Talamasca on both shows are completely different. They feel completely different.
They do.
The Talamasca over on Interview with the Vampire feel very much like old school film noir detective kind of feel. Where over here on the Witches, they do feel a little more campy, and that's just the feel of the show. So what is the Talamasca show going to look like? I feel like Sip has obviously got to be a part of it. He's the head of the Talamasca in New Orleans. And he has been the most, for me, serious part about the Mayfair Witches.
Yeah.
He feels like he's a nice balance between them. What do you guys think the show is actually going to feel like? Campy? Serious?
I think there will be a couple campy moments here and there, but I'm leaning more in the serious direction because I sort of feel like they want Sip to still be a major part of Mayfair Witches. So I have a hard time necessarily thinking he's going to be like in every single second of the Talamasca. I think we will see him. Like, I don't think he's just going to be gone, but I think we're going to see a ton of new characters. And it's great you bring up the idea of noir, because I think a lot of, whether it's the video game LA Noire, which I really like,
good.
you know, Monsters Fade, a show we really enjoyed. I really think that sort of vibe could be great for a show like this, because you're dealing with people, some of them may have power, some of them may not, trying to take on this world and also keep it secret. It's a really interesting premise. It's something that Mayfair Witches could have done a little bit more with, but I just think it really bodes well for it to be kind of serious, kind of dark and twisty, and there can be some emotional moments here and there, but I think it's just being in that genre. Like, that's where the fun really comes from. It doesn't have to come from the camp or from humor. It's sort of like you watch a show like Monsters Fade, even when it's not all that humorous, and it was here or there, but even when it wasn't, it was easy to sit back and be like, man, this is just fun, because you like that time period, the tone, the style, like those things bode really well for a show like this.
I think I was expecting to be a much bigger cliffhanger with the Talamasca, since that is the next show that is seemingly coming up. I really thought they were going to sort of truly introduce what the new team is going to be, so that we kind of have an idea, and moving into this next new show, what we were really going to be looking at. But it felt like there's just a bunch of stooges there that we didn't really get to know very well. And that's kind of where it is. And I was also kind of expecting a little more of an Interview with a Vampire crossover than Felix. And that kind of came and went. I thought there was going to be a little bit more of that in the finale, because I thought they were going to be using this as more of a jumping off point for Talamasca.
Yeah, I feel pretty bummed out about a few different things in this finale, if I'm being honest. Like, there were a couple of moments that I really enjoyed. Like, I'm glad JoJo and Daphne are out of there. And, you know, I'm glad that we have this Rowan and Julian showdown coming. Like, that's really exciting. But it's inevitable you're going to compare the finale for this to the finale of Interview with the Vampire, because they're both second seasons. We've both been in these worlds for a while, but it's just that finale was my favorite episode of any show last year. And it's so hard. There's no iconic speech like what they gave Jacob Anderson at the end of that finale. And it's a very high bar to measure Mayfair Witches up against. It's just, they didn't necessarily do enough to get me really hyped up for what the next story is going to be, even though I know what the next story is going to be on this show. It's just that, you know, I Own the Night, which just got me up out of my chair. I have replayed that 800 times. There's nothing in the finale that I'm gonna do that for here. So I'm missing a little bit of that epic feel, and I am invested in a few characters like Rowan, like Moira, and I want the best for them, but it just felt like there was some stuff that they left on the table here.
I also just think that it's very difficult because, well, as I said, as these shows are in the same universe, These shows do not feel the same at all. It doesn't have that same fluidity through both of these shows where they actually feel connected.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so curious about what the Talamasca is going to feel like.
Yeah.
If it's going to be campy, is it going to be in the middle? Is it going to be way more serious and emotional? This show, the Talamasca, has a lot riding on it. It has to be the thing that threads these two shows together, because these two shows do not thread together, even though they are in the same universe.
Like, crossovers and all of that aside, like that's the biggest thing I want for more Mayfair Witches at this point is let Alexandra Daddario cook more, because it's just like you're not really giving her a lot of opportunities to do things that are that dynamic. You look at what you're giving Sam Reed and Jacob opportunities to do on Interview with the Vampire. Like, they're getting chances to ratchet things up to 11.
Yes.
She's the lead of your show, and basically what you have tasked her to do in these first couple of seasons is be confused.
Walk around like this.
Yeah, bumble her way through things, make us angry. It's just like she's not getting a lot of opportunities for us to really see how good of a Rowan she even can be. And that's a big problem if that's going to be the lead of your show.
I agree. They're not giving her the material that they could be giving her. And I know you guys can do it.
Yeah.
Because that whole episode that she was in with Julian in the other world, in the Victrola, she was great. They gave so much great material to her where the intellectual Rowan was on the inside and the emotional was on the outside. Easily my favorite episode for her and of the show. You guys can give her the material. She's capable of doing it.
Yeah.
Just trust her.
You got to do that. Your show's been on the air for 2 seasons now, but here we are. This is the end of Mayfair Witches season 2. Had some good stuff, disappointing stuff to be excited about, but where do you land coming out of this season? What are you excited to see moving forward? Let us know in the comments. Hit that subscribe button, because as we said, the Talamasca is coming along with Interview with the Vampire, and you can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description. We are covering there exclusively the Pit on Max. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you here next time.